Hi, I'm Dr. Patrick Anderson of Madison Maximized Living. Poor health is not as much about bad genes, bad bugs, or bad luck as it is about bad lifestyle. The science of epigenetics, which means over the genes, states our genes are greatly affected by our lifestyle. That's great, empowering news for your health. Join co-host Stacy Hansen and myself for more great news on natural healthcare news coming up next.
Welcome back to Maximize Living with Dr. Patrick Anderson. We're talking natural healthcare news today. And we've actually got a kind of a special report here. This is from Consumer Reports, one of their latest issues, talking about too many meds. It's talking about how Americans are taking more prescription drugs than ever, and it's not necessarily a good thing for people. So we wanted to take some time here to discuss that.
Yeah, and it was just Consumer Reports did a 15-page expose on it. And this is the best country in the world to get emergency surgery, and with people victims of shooting, we recently had amazing performance. But the day-to-day prescriptions seem to be quite a lot. Mm-hmm. So this article went in depth. It says Americans are taking more prescription pills than ever before, and more than any people in any other country. And I've heard it's as much as we're 5% of the world's population, but we take 80% of the prescriptions. No. And yet we're ranked 43rd in the world in health by the World Health Organization. And it said, this one kind of shocked me, but that may be doing more harm than good. That's a powerful statement. Follow our doctor-approved plan to discover how you can take fewer meds and feel better. And so that's quite fascinating. Some of these points here, more than half of us now regularly take a prescription medication, 4 on average, according to a new nationally representative Consumer Reports survey of 1,947 adults. 4 on average. Almost 1.3 million people went to U.S. emergency rooms in 2014, and about 124,000 people died from those events. This is according to estimates based on data from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention and the Food and Drug Administration. And other research suggests that up to half of those events, 60-some thousand people, that was preventable.
Wow.
So $200 billion per year is spent on taking care of people who had drug reactions. And to continue, to be sure, some people, especially those who are uninsured or underinsured, don't get all the care they need, perhaps even medication. Still, many Americans and the physicians have come to think that every symptom, every hint of disease requires a drug. Says Dr. Prasad, an assistant professor of medicine at Oregon Health and Science University. The question is, where did people get that idea? They didn't invent it. They were spoon-fed it by the notion in the culture we're steeped in. So 55% of Americans regularly take prescription medication, 4 on average.
Yeah, it does seem like a lot.
And the encourage, in a culture, say the experts they consulted, were encouraged by intense marketing by drug companies and an increasingly harried healthcare system that makes dashing off a prescription the easiest way to address a patient's concerns. Here's some other facts in here that I thought were just astounding. The percentage of Americans taking more than 5 prescription drugs has nearly tripled in the last 20 years.
So it's recently going up.
And 9% of people were taking more, of Americans, 9% were taking more than 10 prescriptions.
Wow.
And this article is covered with stories of people who had issues, started one drug, got another drug to treat the side effects of that, and how their health went down until they finally took steps to reduce their medications.
Yeah, it's just it. There's so many side effects with all of this too. You really want to be informed.
In fact, Consumer Reports has started October 21st, 2017 as National Check Your Meds Day. And so pharmacies, Albertsons, Costco, CVS, Sam's, Target, and Walmart are all have agreed to support the effort. So they're having extra staff on hand to even help a person take a look at their medication procedures. One of the questions here too says, do you need a brown bag review? One of the questions is, how many doctors prescribe your meds? Yeah, apparently, if you have more than one doctor, you're getting more meds. And do you also regularly take over-the-counter drugs as being an issue to look at? And you take them more than one drug to treat the same symptom. Do you need a drug? Do you need a drug to control the side effect of another drug? And have you been taking your medication for more than 3 months? Some medications aren't meant to be long-term, but they seem to happen longer.
Interesting.
And do you struggle to pay for your meds, which many people do? They seem to get quite costly.
Well, we do need to go to break, but there's so much more to share with you. We'll have more on that right after this. Welcome back to Maximize Living with Dr. Patrick Anderson. We're talking natural healthcare news today with a special report coming from Consumer Reports, an article, a big article, 15 pages, talking about too many meds, talking about how many prescription medications Americans are taking and how it's increased so much in recent decades, and some of the things people could maybe look at. We talked about checking your meds and just seeing, what sort of interactions you have, what types of meds are you taking daily?
Yeah, on that same point, 49% of people who take prescriptions ask their prescribers whether they could stop taking a drug. So that's good, people are asking. And to the credit, 71% of them successfully eliminated at least one drug.
Great.
Yeah, and they're talking here about 12 lifestyle changes before drugs. So they mention ADD, dementia, back pain, mild depression, heartburn, and insomnia, overactive bladder, prediabetes, obesity, hypertension. So they mention a lot of natural things that can and should be considered.
You should try before the drugs? Interesting.
And of course, someone you discuss with your doctor and the urgency of your situation. Also, part of this here was what older adults must know about prescription risks. And they had some questions, I thought, for the older adults that were really good. Is this drug safe for someone my age? Because age and weight do matter. Will a lower dose work just as well? Do I need to treat the problem aggressively, so aggressively? And is a particular prescription still necessary? And then I had quite an article on drugs not mixing, to be very aware of what doesn't mix when drugs don't mix and the problems that they cause. So congratulations, Consumer Reports, for putting a real detailed article together that I think anyone looking at taking prescriptions should be aware of.
And there's a lot of good resources online too, I've noticed. If you're not sure about drug interactions, of course you can always call your pharmacist, but I've noticed that looking online too, there's a lot of good resources out there just to check.
And isn't the real goal to stay healthy and not have to rely on medication?
Right.
So I really believe our bodies are made incredibly well, that if we take care of ourselves, take care of our spine, our nervous systems and structure, eat well, move well, think well, and watch toxins, our bodies are really designed to not need very many, perhaps none.
So definitely want to check with your doctor on some of those things. Speaking of some of the things that will keep you healthy, we talk about sleep a lot on the show. Business Insider has an article about how it's not so much the number of hours you sleep. Of course, you do typically want 7 to 9 hours, but they talked about how new studies are showing how important it is to go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time every day. They did a study with some students at Harvard College, and they all got about the same amount of sleep, but some had irregular sleep schedules. They were getting up at different times, waking up at different times every day, and their performance was significantly worse. And they found that with a couple of other studies too, where it just seems to matter to keep that biological rhythm that you've got going. And that's basically your personal night. And that's all dependent on you when it is that your body feels that it needs to be asleep, and you need to respect that, or your performance really is affected in health.
With 1/3 of people not sleeping well on any given night, I think that's really helpful information.
So something you can easily start doing today. Stay with us, we'll have more right after this. Welcome back to Maximize Living with Dr. Patrick Anderson, talking natural healthcare news today with some great news for you from around the web. We've got something here from the Daily Mail talking about how having a thicker waist actually raises your cancer risk. The belly fat there actually releases a protein, it says here, that turns healthy cells into cancerous ones. It's known as visceral fat. It's located deep in your abdomen. It actually secretes inflammatory substances, which sounds awful. And additional research they cite here from the journal Oncogene says that BMI actually isn't the best way to determine your health and what some of your risk might be here. They said actually it's your waist to hip ratio, which would be if you divide the circumference of your waist by that of your hips. It's a better indication of how you're doing with that belly fat. So women, if you have a ratio of 0.85 or more, and men, if you have a ratio of 0.90 or more, that indicates you've got high levels of that visceral fat, and you want to really watch out for that. That's actually linked to cardiovascular disease, diabetes, stroke, and now some indications that maybe malignant cells too.
Mm-hmm. So this is fat that's not what you can hold on to if you were to grab your waist. It's really what's internal, and that's causing the most health problems. So 85%, 0.85 for women,
and
and
0.90 for men.
So yeah, that's a great article to show that the BMI, which is checking your height versus your weight, is helpful but not valuable enough. There's better tests yet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got one here, Syndrome X. Sounds like a TV show, doesn't it?
It does.
Syndrome X. What you need to know about the next frontier in health. This is from Chiropractic Economics, one of the journals I get, and it talks about Syndrome X. You know, it's a condition really called metabolic syndrome is a synonym for it, and it's 1/3 of all adults have it, and it is an epidemic problem. It's really a pre-diabetic situation. So if you have 3 of the 5 things that we list here, then you are most likely have Syndrome X or metabolic syndrome. And those 5 things are, number 1, high blood pressure. Number 2, excess fat around the waist.
There it is again.
Number 3, high triglycerides. Number 4, high blood sugar. And number 5, low levels of the good fat, cholesterol, HDL. So if your HDL levels are a little too low, you don't have that high density lipoprotein, those are 5 indicators. So 3 out of 5 of those indicators indicates that you are at risk for stroke, heart disease, diabetes, other cardiovascular events, even psychiatric illness. So the way to overcome it is to get on the healthy lifestyle, get the probiotics in your body, get the fiber in your body, get moving. And most of the people who have this really are inactive and have a very poor diet. It's interesting, I was at a recent seminar and they said 80% of Americans think they eat well, but only about 10% actually do.
Really? It's because there's so many hidden ingredients in things, and unless you're making everything, it seems, from scratch, from whole foods, you know, not the store, but the actual, ingredients.
A place you really trust that believes
right,
in that.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're like making it yourself with actual natural ingredients, it's hard to know what you're truly eating.
Some of the chemicals are meant for shelf life and not human life. And so I have to be cautious with that. But the good news is when you start doing it right, your body's amazing at restoring.
Yeah, it's interesting how much you can do just by doing things like eating right, exercising, getting enough sleep, going to bed at the same time, getting up at the same time every day.
These are these things we call epigenetics that actually control how your genes function. We all thought that genes controlled everything, but actually our lifestyles control our genes as to whether they express diseases and problems. We have much control in how we live our lifestyle.
So it's great to know that you've got that kind of control, and a lot of these things you can do for free. Well, stay with us. We'll have more right after this. Welcome back to Maximize Living with Dr. Patrick Anderson, talking natural healthcare news today. Here's a good one. We've been talking about some belly fat and some other, things about gaining weight and how it's not good for you necessarily to gain all that fat. So 5 foods that help burn fat. This is from The Telegraph. So if you want to add some of these to your diet, if you feel like you've got a little to lose, chili peppers, if you can stand the heat, which I can't, so I don't think I'll be having this one, but they think that might cause weight loss and fight fat buildup, but they're looking to do a little more research on that. Grapefruit, that's kind of a classic one. You always remember hearing about that grapefruit diet.
The one concern with grapefruit is it can interact with a lot of medications more than almost any other food. So be sure if you do the grapefruit diet that you're not interacting with a specific medication. Yeah,
that could be bad, especially if you're eating a lot of it. That's a good point too. They suspect that speeds up your metabolism, grapefruit, if you're able to take it. Green tea is an easy one to add to your day. There's things in there that stimulate fat oxidation and might have the potential to increase fat metabolism too, which is good just by drinking that. Seaweed, we talk about seaweed sometimes on some of our food episodes. I remember when you brought in those.
I like a lot of different foods, but seaweed is a little more challenging, but it's
You're
so
right.
good for you.
I remember those, the kind of the flaky thing that you got too that time. Yeah, you can eat sushi. That's usually in there. That's a good way to get that in. But that they say here that actually increases resting energy expenditure, burning more fat again. So if you can get some of that in, and then this is an easy one I find to get in, cinnamon. Cinnamon is very good for that. It has an anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. I'm trying to go anti. You don't want antioxidants.
We want to be more positive.
That wouldn't be good.
Saying anti.
I know. Antioxidants is what I'm trying to say. So that's a good one to do. I just throw that into, oatmeal or really just about anything.
Yeah. Imagine just having real food in your diet, not feeling stuck, not feeling addicted to the junk processed packaged foods. You just make a switch where you just eat real food only, and pretty soon that's what you want to eat all the time.
Yeah.
And kids lose the craving. So like with kids, if they just don't have it in the house, sounds cruel, but once they don't have that junk food there, they'll just eat what's there, and before you know it, that's what they want. Great foods like that, real food.
Yeah, it's usually just rough for that first week or two, but then I think your body goes back. It sort of resets everything, and it becomes a lot easier.
I've got an article here from drax.com. It's coconut oil pulling. Have you ever heard of oil pulling?
I've heard of it, yeah. I've not tried it, but I've heard of it.
So you take a tablespoon, or a little less if you have a tablespoon can be a lot.
Yeah.
And you put it in your mouth and you swish it around, pulling it between your teeth. And the article's here is quite impressive on how valuable it is for helping gingivitis, which a lot of people have. It's helpful for tooth decay. It's helpful for halitosis or bad breath. And the idea is for 10 to 20 minutes. That's the problem.
Oh, that's
swishing
a
at a
long
wrong time.
Yeah.
They say you'll actually develop jaw muscles and help with TMJ syndrome when you swish that long.
There you go.
But you know what? I think anything, even a few minutes would be good. And of course, spit it out because it actually draws toxins out from your body.
Wow.
And it's healthy. There's really no contraindications that I've seen unless you have an allergy to coconut. So swishing, take a tablespoon of oil, coconut oil, and swish it around and spit it out after up to 10 to 20 minutes if you can last that long. And very healthy for the mouth, very cleansing. And so many people have gingivitis, and this could be a very simple remedy for that.
Be an easy way to do it. Have you tried this yourself?
Yes, and that's why I know it's hard to go for very long.
Yeah.
You can't talk very well.
Yeah, and a tablespoon for 20 minutes.
But virtually any age can do it. Of course, smaller mouths you use less. But look up more on coconut oil pulling. I think it's a nice home remedy.
An interesting thing to try. We'll stay with us. There's more right after this.
Thanks for watching our show, Natural Healthcare News. Hopefully you've learned how a better lifestyle directly leads to better health. One of the best health decisions you can make is to get a chiropractic checkup. A checkup will determine if your nervous system that runs and regulates everything in your body has any interference and is limiting your health potential. You can't really know if you have nerve interference without being checked by a chiropractor. Give our office a call at 608-833-1282 for a checkup today. For Maximize Living, I'm Dr. Patrick Anderson. Until next time, live well and God bless.